hypnosis. A lot of people have asked me about hypnosis and what's the rate of success and has it been used for a while, and hypnosis has a huge history. Hypnosis used to be used during ancient times, way before civilization, and the first evidence of that are the shamanic practices. And what hypnosis does not mean amnesia, and hypnosis does not mean somnambulism, if I get to pronounce that right in English. Somnambulism, does not include that. Hypnosis just takes you to a very focused awareness, focusing your attention to one or two things at a time, eliminating a lot of the additional stimuli input so you can get to where you need to go to solve what you need to solve. So that's a beautiful process. So hypnosis comes from ancient times, all the way back to indigenous culture, all over the globe, Africa, Australia, Europe, Northern Europe, Siberia, America, South America. And that is recorded in history in the 18th century. We had the Austrian physician Franz Anton Mesmer. That's why we have the terminology mesmerizing, because Mesmer developed the therapeutic technique that he used to call animal magnetism. And animal magnetism doesn't have much to do with what we call today chemistry. But what Mesmer defined as animal magnetism involves inducing a trance in his patients through visualization and suggestion. So this is what we still use in hypnosis today, visualization, and then work on an appropriate type of suggestion, which you're going to use for you achieving the goal that you're looking to achieve. In 19th century, hypnosis became very popular through psychologist and therapist James Braid and Jean-Martin Charcot, among the most prominent practitioners of the time. Now, James Braid is credited with coining the term hypnosis. Well, okay, and developing a theory of hypnosis as a state of focused attention, which that is what hypnosis is, focused attention. But what we understand as attention nowadays, as paying attention, is very different than a focused attention in hypnosis, because you don't go to sleep in hypnosis. It's maybe 2-3% of people that go to sleep in hypnosis. It may be first session because they're tired, but very little people fall asleep in a proper hypnosis. And Jean-Martin Charcot used hypnosis to study different psychological conditions. Then in mid to 20th century, hypnosis became increasingly accepted as a valid therapeutic tool. Well, no kidding, it was used for how long, and it was very therapeutic up until then. So, okay, we're gonna keep it shorter, because I know where hypnosis lost its idea of therapy, but I'm not gonna go there. But in the mid to late 20th century, hypnosis became accepted as a valid therapeutic tool with several psychological and medical associations that begin to recognize its value. Really, it took them up until the 20th century for the medical field to recognize the hypnosis's value. But it's okay. We're gonna forgive them. Okay. And soon after, cognitive behavioral therapy emerged from that. But before Milton Erickson, which me and Randy totally love, Milton Erickson, There was Dave Ellman, and Dave Ellman, there were others before, but Dave Ellman, it's a well-known personality in today's hypnotherapist. And Dave Ellman was a stage hypnotist, and he became interested in using hypnosis for therapeutic purposes after he saw his father getting tremendous relief from pain due to his cancer. So then he decided to use hypnosis for therapeutic purposes, and he developed many rapid induction techniques. And through the rapid induction techniques, that's how he gets to use stage hypnosis, because not all hypnosis uses a rapid induction technique, and not everybody, it doesn't work for everybody. But Milton Erickson, on the other hand, he was a psychiatrist and psychotherapist, and he revolutionized the field of hypnotherapy. That's why now we call it Ericksonian hypnotherapy. Ellmanian hypnotherapy is not as popular to hear Ellmanian hypnotherapy unless you hear it amongst hypnotherapists, but Ericksonian hypnotherapy, it's quite a popular term. So what Milton Erickson did, he emphasized on the importance of the unconscious mind, and on the importance of language and the indirect suggestion, and a lot of metaphors. Why? Because they're evocative. And his approach became known as hypnotherapy, Ericksonian hypnotherapy, and it remains a highly influential and widely used method in the modern hypnotherapy practice. Because Erickson's contribution to hypnotherapy has helped establish hypnosis as a valid therapeutic tool and influenced the development of numerous therapeutic approaches and techniques. And if you ask me, Erickson created the basis of what we today understand as neurolanguage. Well, maybe others with him, so feel free to correct me. I'm totally okay with you correcting me, but Erickson definitely, he became a master on using language and specific words to influence the subconscious because of the power, the words being evocative, and the power of ambiguity and vagueness and all that. So that influenced the development of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, because they both are at the basis of neuro-language. Yeah, and neuro-language, the easiest way to understand neuro-language is evocative, because if we are to communicate something vague and ambiguous, that's going to create an experience, at least in the thoughts, it's going to have a meaning for you. You're going to have a particular understanding of it, or you're going to react to it in some sort of way. So the way you understand something that's vague or ambiguous is going to be very specific to you. So that is neurolanguage, right? But today, hypnosis continues to be used in a variety of therapeutic and medical settings and research, and especially in self-improvement and peak performance. And a lot of artists and performers, people that a lot of people that you admire on stage, they use hypnosis, various different forms of hypnosis. There are many different forms of hypnosis, not just traditional or Ericksonian and I'm going to talk about that just a bit later, but right now I'm going to have Randy give us his wisdom on the history of hypnosis, and he can touch up a lot on Jay Haley. Randy? Randy, you are muted. You need to click on your microphone. Okay, you're good. Never mind me. Never mind me, you're good. Go ahead, Randy.
Well, that was a very good summary, and very, very good summary. I would just add that it goes the hidden. Some people, when when people study the history of hypnosis, some people go back 1,500 years to faith healers and to more primitive times where healers put people in trances. They didn't bring a watch in front of their face, but they still put them in a trance and had them heal. So it goes back many, many, many years. And it was only in Sigmund Freud who invented therapy itself, psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, psychiatry. He started off using hypnosis and
his cousin
was a big proponent of it until he decided to abandon it because he thought that it was not that effective, I think, was one of the reasons he did. Yeah, it was, so anyway, he abandoned it. But it was a big proponent, and people picked it up from him. And one of the big proponents was a man who believed that there were magnetic fields in our bodies and that he could manipulate it with his hands. And he supposedly cured people with it. It was a placebo effect, apparently. His name was Mesmer. I think you mentioned him, Carmen. And that's where our English word mesmerize comes from. People say, oh, that was mesmerizing. Well, that's where that word comes from. It's from him, meaning it's hypnotic. And hypnosis was really not that big of a deal not a big deal. It was not part of the psychotherapy world for decades, even though Milton Erickson wrote a lot of papers during the time, and Dave Elman was going around hypnotizing people in 45 seconds. It was just not, back in the psychotherapy world, it was just not, there was much more an emphasis on psychotherapy rather than hypnosis. And it still is. Hypnosis has always been sort of a sidebar to psychotherapy, and still is, but unfortunately for that. But it was only until Dave Elman and Milton Erickson, and I don't know, this may be boring people silly, but anyway, Dave Elman and Milton Erickson were contemporaries, but they had such a different style, and they were not friends. They could not connect on a friendship basis, to say the least. And one of the reasons is Milton Erickson, as you mentioned, Carmen, was a medical doctor, and he had, for better or worse, people meant that made him more of a legitimate hypnotist. But I tell you, Dave Elman, who was a radio disc jockey who went into hypnosis, there are people that worship Dave Elman just as much as they do Milton Erickson. There's a big conference going on it went on last week where there were like thousands and thousands and thousands of people attending virtually who believe Dave Elman is, in his school of hypnosis, is the best thing that's ever happened. And so it's what it is in my mind is it's a religion. There was two people that were brought in, and one group went with one person and one group with another, just like they do in religions. And one group followed them, one group followed the other, and sometimes the religions connect, most of the time they don't. And so anyway, it's just very interesting. It's only until this guy named Jay Haley, who was not a hypnotist, but was a researcher at Stanford University, they got interested in studying humor and animal behavior, and humor in animals, and play in animals, communicate under the big umbrella of communication. And the guy that was leading that study knew Milton Erickson and sent Jay Haley out to talk to Milton Erickson. And Milton Erickson was such a different person, and told these wild stories about therapy. Jay Haley got mesmerized himself, wrote a book about it. Took years to do it, but he wrote a book about the case studies. And when that book came out, I remember when I first read it, I thought it was fiction. it was so off the wall, some of the things he did. And for example, one of the things, I guess people would tell stories. Well, one of the things Milton Erickson did, he had somebody. One of his clients was a young lady. She was not. She wasn't even a teenager. She was a young lady who was had what's called agoraphobia. Didn't want to leave agoraphobia. Excuse me. Didn't want to leave her house. And her mother came to Milton Erickson and said she doesn't want to leave the house. She's scared of boys. This is back in the 50s. She's scared of boys, don't want to meet anybody, and she's very self-conscious about her feet. She thinks her feet are too big, and she won't leave the house. And can you help? Now, what would what would a therapist do with something like that? Well, Jay Haley went there. Milton Erickson went there. Went there. He decided to make a home visit, arranged this with the mother, arranged a big production with the mother. He was going to do something very different, and it was very different. It was very different. And made it out that he was making a medical doctor visit to visit this girl's father. And he asked the girl to help him and go get some towels or something. And the girl was standing beside Milton Erickson, and Milton Erickson backed up and purposely stepped hard on her feet. And she screamed. And this is published. This is a published study. This you can read it. Anybody can read it. He, barked at her and said these words. This is exactly what he said. If you would grow those things bigger, then a man would be able to avoid them. Now, I don't know, Carmen. That's so off the wall. It's so bizarre. It's so strange. And if we did that, we would be reported, we would be sued, we would be on the media, we'd be arrested, we'd be given a death sentence. All kinds of horrible things would happen if we purposely stepped on some girl's kid and yelled at her for not growing her feet big enough. Well, he did that. A week later or so, the mother called him, said she's gone out of the house, and she started she won't stay in the house any longer, and her whole social life has changed. And they made a follow-up, and 10 years later, she'd married, had a kid. That's the kind of therapy that Milton Erickson did, but that was not hypnosis. I'm going way off a tangent. But that's the kind of, he influenced therapy because of stuff like that. So, anyway, but like you were saying, Carmen, just to get back on the topic, his style of hypnosis, if somebody's listening to us goes to a hypnosis, or listens to a self-hypnosis tape, or recording, excuse me, they would hear probably not the style of Milton Erickson. They would probably hear the style of closer to Dave Elmer, which is, okay, make yourself comfortable, relax, put your arms down, pay attention to your breathing, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff you hear in a hypnosis recording. Milton Erickson's would be, well, you know more about it than I do, Carmen. You could do the Milton Erickson stuff, but anyway, it's just a big difference.
Yes, it is. And Ericksonian hypnotherapy, for me, I'm drawn to it much more because it's therapeutic. Milton Erickson focused on solving problems because Milton Erickson, at the age of 17, he contracted polio, and a lot of people don't even know what polio is nowadays, but through the virus of polio, Milton Erickson became bedridden, and she was barely 17, right? But he was an intelligent kid, and he was fed and couldn't walk and couldn't move his arms, couldn't properly use his muscles to swallow, his muscles to talk, and affected his breathing muscles. So what did he have available? What he had available was his mind. And he started using his mind, the power, talk about mind of matter. He started using his mind right there, being bedridden, and replayed the memories of him walking. And he intentionally visualized those times when he walked, and when he was able to walk, to go places, to play, to go to school, and all that. And he's done that for what else was he going to do laying in bed? Yeah, not watching TV back then. And because he engaged in self-hypnosis at this time, visualization, self-hypnosis, and also what we understand as healing, he was able to activate cellular memories that would help heal, because through the power of neuroplasticity, he created new neural pathways. Why? Well, the brain doesn't know when you're imagining something that's happening or where something is happening right there. The brain has no idea. The brain is a tool. So if you're imagining something really, really, really hard, I mean, it doesn't have to be that hard. I mean, just imagine it and put a feeling into it. Then the brain takes it as real. Just like watching TV, it's like, oh my God, it's real, right? So then the brain will act accordingly. So by doing this kind of self-hypnosis, Milton Erickson was able to re-establish neural pathways and was able to begin to walk slowly. He was able to begin to walk. Now this is a tremendous story. Because when we look at healing, a lot of people expect healing to be something like waking Lazarus for the dead and walking on water. That's not what healing necessarily is, because Milton healed himself, and in the process he was able to use tremendous layers of the unconsciousness and the collective consciousness and cellular memory, and in the process he was able to access what I like to call the fields of knowledge, the fields of awareness. And this is a little bit of alchemical hypnosis terminology. So there is a part of the hypnosis, not all of it is completely understood, but it doesn't have to be, because when done properly and when done for therapeutic purposes, it brings results, and it's just wonderful. And you see, when Milton Erickson, when he was concentrating on these memories, and when he was doing self-hypnosis, he was actually practicing alchemical self-hypnosis, or a lot of people understand that as healing, right? Self-healing. You can put whatever label you want to that, but mind over matter, it's a big deal. And I myself experience and still experiencing mind over matter, and a lot of other people. But what's something that's very, very clear to this is attention to detail. Attention to detail is extremely, extremely important, and that's why hypnosis it's a state of focused attention, because we have our attention. It's not just what we understand as having attention, as being able to focus and to concentrate. That's not all there is to attention. Attention is a built-in mechanism. You'll have attention with your eyes closed. Your attention is still running even when you sleep. It's just a different type of attention. So in this focused state of attention, you have a lot of input stimuli that are quieted. Close your eyes so you don't have input stimuli through your eyes coming in, because we want to engage your subconscious to bring us images. Why images? Because this is the language of the subconscious. The subconscious doesn't it's not linear. It doesn't care about your grammar, and it doesn't have a particular language. Actually, the language of the subconscious is images and patterns. Yeah, and there's mathematics. It's a lot of patterns in mathematics, right? And images are very, very powerful. And when you are able to access these images with your subconscious during the hypnosis session, you have the ability to do something with it. So in my particular way of working with it, I have clients do something to those images, which action which is representative of what they, which is evocative or ambiguous or vague or whichever, it's very therapeutic to get them to where they need to go to achieve something. And it is unbelievably beautiful how it happens. And it's, for example, there are clients where they had, it doesn't necessarily have to be trauma and abuse and rape. It doesn't have to be all that. It can just be some sort of experiences that it's a lot of resentment that you have a hard time letting go. And oftentimes when we have hard time letting go is that we think, well, this shouldn't have happened. I didn't deserve this. And then you feel guilty about somebody treating you badly, or things you might have been bullied or criticized for no merit. And those experiences, they leave an imprint, right? But then when I take the clients, most of the clients, when we gently get close to one of these experiences, because your subconscious knows where to go to get to those experiences, because we set up the intention before we go into the hypnosis. We set up the intention. What are we trying to accomplish today, right? So then the subconscious goes to where you need to go. And when you get into that patterns, the imagery of that particular imprint of that resentment, of that heaviness, difficulty, trauma, whatever you want to call it, the thing that you want, the obstacle you want to remove, you go through it. Sometimes it happens in one session, sometimes it happens in several sessions. You go through it, you resolve it without having to re-experience the experience. In psychotherapy, you talk about it, and then again you have feelings and emotions, and you kind of re-experience the whole thing. And a lot of people don't want to do that. Well, of course not, because you've had enough of this experience. You don't want to re-experience them. But in hypnosis, your attention is so focused. Even if you have a little bit of this experience, it's not intense. It's not re-experienced. It's just observed. And the transformation that happens, it's mind-blowing. I mean, I just had a client that we went to this particular image, and by the time it took a little bit for that particular event to transform. And by the time we were done with the session, all of that was so transformative. There was this particular person in this client's life that there was some resentment there. And by the time we were done with hypnosis, the subconscious was able to I'm going to give you details, was able to release all that and see the love side of that relationship, because that relationship, it wasn't only resentment. And when you get through that, it's just so beautiful and so miraculous that it could take you years and years in psychotherapy to get to achieve this. So does this happen for every single body? About 80% of the people, yeah. Because there are people that are not hypnotizable, or there are people that really, really, really don't want to access those memories because they've done a lot of psychotherapy in the past, and through psychotherapy you get to re-experience this, and they don't want to re-experience because they had enough of these experiences. So I understand that too. But with patience, even those people can get to this transformation. And how long does it take? An hour and a half to resolve a very significant aspect of a past timeline of experiences with one person, for example. So that's magical to me, and it's tremendously healing. Randy?
Yeah, it can be very effective, and I think there was a study done. I was shown it, and I can't remember where I saw it, but I was shown it, but I don't remember where it was published. It showed that in psychotherapy, after 600 hours of certain types of therapy, that the amount of change was like 40% of the people got better, they felt. And in hypnosis, it was after 6 hours, it was like 85%. Now, there's a lot of stuff with statistics that can be done in therapy. You can prove anything with statistics, so it has to be taken with that understanding. But it's irrefutable that hypnosis is effective and can help people. There's study after study after study. It's just very interesting because people learn, just like you were saying, people learn about themselves. One of the things that, as I understand it, that Milton Erickson brought that was so much different, Dave Ellman focused a lot on the symptoms. So his big thing, one of his big things was he could rapidly put somebody in a very deep trance. He did that for medical purposes. Then Erickson did psychotherapy with hypnosis, and one of the things, the revolutions that happened was before Erickson got real popular, the idea was that the subconscious was a place of constant turmoil and fighting and stress. Remember those old phrases? You don't hear them anymore. Oedipus complex, do you remember those kind of phrases? And the ego, the id, the superego, the Oedipal complex, where a kid falls in love with his mother and wants to kill his father, that kind of thing. For many decades, those kind of conflicts that people theorized happened were the basis of therapy. The subconscious was a place that was where a lot of stuff had been repressed, a lot of bad stuff, like I want to kill my father and marry my mother. Now that sounds very kinky, but that's a Greek play called Oedipus, and that's where the Oedipal complex comes from. That's where Sigmund Freud. There's just a lot of repression, suppression. Anna Freud did like 10 different psychological defense mechanisms, as she called them. I learned all this in school. And projection, all these things that we do unconsciously to deal with these conflicts. When hypnosis, especially Milton Erickson, came along, the idea was radical back then that the subconscious was a place of healing, that there was a way for us to resolve our problems in our lives that we carried around with us all the time. And the theory was, one of the things I remember when I watched Erickson, I didn't watch it, but when I read one of his inductions, and an induction in hypnosis is getting a person into a trance, the first few minutes. One of the ways that Erickson did, one of the things he did that I thought was just so beautiful, was he had a person go back and he said, remember back, you have so much to learn, you've learned so much, and things seem very, very challenging, but they've been challenging before. And you remember you're in the first grade and you're sitting in your desk, and you remember looking up at the wall, and you're seeing these letters everywhere, and there's 1, 2, 10, 26 letters, and you learn these letters go together, and you've got to learn how to put them together. It's overwhelming. How am I going to ever do that? How can I learn 26 letters and memorize them? So I love that idea that our mind, this is where it became revolutionary, our mind is what's a good word?
Storage.
Storage. That's what I'm trying to, something like a storage, like a safe or a big storage unit, where all of this learning resides. And if we can tap into that, that was the big revolution in Harris, is he thought there was, if we go into the subconscious, that could solve our problems. And it was just a big revolution, because psychotherapy was like, go and solve our problems. That's where our problems are, in our subconscious. It's all of our conflicts, and we repress. We want to kill people. We want to do this. We want to do this. We want to be criminals. We want to, everything we suppress. And he revolutionized it, and really, it's changed psychotherapy. Very rarely these days do people go back and do, you don't hear, you go to a therapist, and they don't say words like ego and id, and you have a projection complex or something like that. They don't use words like that. It's all changed. It's very different. So it was interesting. Of course, I didn't know. I was way away from anything, knowing Milton Erickson himself, of course. But I did train under Jay Haley, who knew him, and Haley had endless stories about him. And Haley was able to pull out the essence of what Milton Erickson did, besides hypnosis. It was a lot. It was interesting. It was just a real interesting time. Could talk about it forever, and I guess people would go to sleep and put people to sleep with it. But it's very interesting.
Yes, indeed it is. And there are still people today, after all of this, somehow we're so focused on publicizing the violence and the lust and the greed on television. And on television, when hypnosis is publicized on television, it's publicized as stage hypnosis, where people, clog like a chicken and whatever they do, which is funny, and nobody wants to be made fun like that, and that's understandable. And there are still people that are afraid to go for hypnosis because they think that hypnosis means that they're going to be put asleep, and they're not going to remember anything that's happening, which is not true. They think that they're going to lose control and somebody's going to take over their mind. Well, if that was to be true, how many criminals do you think would be completely transformed by today? If that was to be true, a lot of them. So it's not true that with hypnosis somebody takes over your mind. Nothing happens in hypnosis that you don't want to happen. If someone comes to you to ask you to help them in hypnosis, to help them to quit smoking, but you're not ready to quit smoking, it's not going to work. So this client that comes to me and she really wants to resolve these issues, it happened, right? And it's a very deep experience, but also people that are reluctant to go, well, yeah, you want to go to the right person, and me and Randy are the right people to go to have hypnosis done by. Absolutely. Right? But are there bad stories with hypnosis? I don't want to go over it, and that's not my purpose. But okay, here's the thing. I had a lot of hypnosis done. I had a lot of regression done, and a lot of past life regression. And the thing is that during those time I was completely relaxed, but I was still aware of the surroundings. And if I needed to wake up quickly and run out of that room and out of that building, it was something easy to do, right? And the same happens with my clients too. You do have control over what happens. It's just that you're under a state of very different type of relaxation. It's a state of focused attention. Yeah, your brain waves generate more of a theta brain wave as opposed to alpha or beta brain wave. And it is through hypnosis that what's his name, that he studied on his cousin Freud, that he developed a psychoanalysis. And then everybody was so enamored with psychoanalysis because it's so much more intellectual and it's so much more linear. Linear is something that you can actually measure. Where in hypnosis, not everything is measurable. There's ambiguity, there's evoking, there's subjective experiences. So science likes to have everything then that can be measured linearly. And you can, in hypnosis, how you measure, it's how you feel after. Do you have less resentment? Do you have less pain? Are you more calm? Are you more relaxed? Are you achieving peak performance? Are you achieving different things that were difficult for you to do? Maybe you take a long course on whatever, and then you are able to study on that, and all of a sudden you have good results, and you don't even know it was because you had a lot of hypnosis sessions. Or maybe you get along better with your family, with your significant others, or at work, or maybe you're a bit more detached. What a concept, to be more detached from all of the troubles and the resentment of the world. So hypnosis is just, I just love it. I mean, why I became a hypnotherapist is I've had a lot of hypnosis and different types of hypnosis. I experienced it. So I've gone through it. So I know what clients are going through it. I have an idea of how they feel and how they think and how they put together when they go through it, because I went through it. It's not just what I was taught in the school, and then I follow what I was taught in school, book by book by book, and then, well, if you don't follow the script, then I don't know what the client is gonna do. No, that's not what I do. I know what they're going through, and if they become very, very uncomfortable, I either know what to tell them, or I take them out. Right? Very rarely does to me, it never happens that someone became uncomfortable. I remember 20 years ago when I had past life regression, there were moments when I had tears. I had tears, and that's pretty much it's called what's the word
Reaction.
No, catharsis. So it's very cathartic. And catharsis, what catharsis means, it means that it's just stuff just comes to the surface and then you release them. So this is what's the beauty in hypnosis, like stuff comes to your subconscious in a form of images, in a form of patterns, in some sort of movies that you don't understand what exactly it means. Like this client just said that the movie she went through during the hypnosis, the images they came up, it's not like she's seen that movie before. It's not like there are images that she remember from somewhere. And that's exactly so, because it was the same for me. And how many sessions did I have? Every single session was a different type of a movie. It's not something I've seen in movies, and it's no way. So, but this is how the subconscious stores and communicates, and I cannot stress the importance of giving hypnosis a try. And you don't have to have trauma, or you don't have to have resentment. I don't know if there's a person that doesn't have resentment unless they've gone through a lot of personal development and a lot of self-healing, self-hypnosis and all that. But there's athletes that go through hypnosis. There's performers that go on stage, they go through hypnosis. All of these successful people, they all go through hypnosis, and they go access the power of their subconscious. Edison, they say that Edison would sit in a chair and would take himself in a trance, but he would hold the book because he wanted to access what I call the fields of knowledge. So he would sit in a chair and hold the book, and when he would get very, very relaxed, go into theta brainwaves close to delta brainwaves, he didn't want to fall asleep. The book will fall out of his hand. He would startle, he will wake up, but those few seconds, a minute or two, he remembered where his subconscious went, and he brought back those memories, and he was able to put science together, and when he invented the bulb. There is many stories, and then there is a film that was made on. There's a movie that was made about. I believe it was about Nostradamus in the 18, 17, 16. I forget what Nostradamus, which century he was, and Nostradamus did the same. I mean, even deeper than that. And there's a lot of successful people and people that have defined the course of history, people that have shaped the future that we live in today, our present, and things that are available to us by the use of hypnosis, by being able to access their subconscious at a level at a very, very deep level. Beneficial, of course. Randy?
Yeah, anybody that's ever used a smartphone has been in a trance.
Yes, that is true. Only scrolling to the smartphone, you get hypnotized. Only just scrolling and sweeping either left, right, or up, down. Oh, that's definitely hypnosis. Go on, Randy.
You're in a trance, yeah. It's a trance, and it's done on purpose. People know how to put those programs together to make people do that. I'm one too. If I'm not careful, I can spend 45 minutes just totally and it's not like it's wrong. It's not a illegal thing, but it is kind of a waste of time at some point. And the other thing too is hypnosis. Anybody can experience that, and not everyone can be hypnotized. Not everybody wants to be hypnotized. But one of the things that I think some of the things that helps, besides just smoking and eating, which is what people tend to relate it to, is it can help with cholesterol, it can help with blood pressure, it can help with headaches, it can help a person relax going to the dentist, it can help with neurological pain, neuropathic pain, it can help with just chronic pain, chronic illness, and it can help with a whole lot of medical issues. It can help with poor sleep, it can help with I mentioned headaches. It can help with learning how to relax and keep a person's metabolism from making their metabolism from spinning out of control. Excuse me. And it could do a lot of stuff like that. That's very, very useful. Could be very helpful. And so. It's got a lot of benefits to it. You ask if there's anything. I mean, I think hypnosis, just like anything else, can be abused. If somebody is psychopathic, they can use. And I knew somebody like that who was psychopathic and was a hypnotist and did abuse it. But that's not unusual in any profession. There are doctors in all kinds of places. There's about once a week I pick up a story about some renegade nurse somewhere that's killed 10 people and they're in the hospital. So it can happen. And social workers too. They're here in Baton Rouge, they're in Louisiana. There are some social workers that have neglected taking care of kids who have ended up dying of abuse. So anyway, my point being is that anything can be abused. But I think in hypnotism and hypnosis, it's relatively rare. It's not as... Because the people I've met, I haven't been in the field that long at all, but Carmen, you've been in it much longer, but the story you gave is exactly the story I hear from almost everyone. They became a hypnotherapist because hypnosis helped them so much, and they want to help others. That's the common theme among everyone. And people go into that with those type of intentions, and it makes them excellent hypnotists. And
That's true.
so,
In my experience, people that have experienced hypnosis, people that themselves and have gotten results just like Erickson did. I mean, Erickson have gotten like quite significant. Well, I've got some really significant results. You see, even in our Ericksonian intensive training, there's a lot of licensed psychotherapists, a lot of MDs, a lot of PhDs, a lot of psychiatrists, some dentists that they go to get trained in this wonderful art of hypnotherapy, because they get more tools to help their clients. So, yeah, you're right. I've been practicing hypnosis for quite a while, and there's so many there's different hypnosis that can be. It's not just one type of hypnosis, but what I like about Ericksonian hypnosis is that it's solution focused, incorporates neuro language, it's evocative, it's subjective, and it's tailored to the individual. As opposed to other techniques like, okay, I'm not going to use other names because I'm not very familiar, but I know that one of the core principles of Ericksonian therapy is tailoring and utilization. So you take everything that the client brings to you and you utilize it. You take the negative and you transform it into positive. You tailor to their unique need. It's not like you have a script and then you go off the script and then good luck. No, you tailor. And a very important aspect of tailoring, not only that, but know a little bit of the client's history, but the rhythm of breathing, of the idiomotor response, which is the rhythm of breathing, and then you watch their idiomotor responses on their face. The client will always tell you without words what you need to do more or less, or if you need to enhance something, and that is just so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. And oftentimes, even in the induction, when I go through the induction, I get idiomotor responses through certain words during the induction, and that gives me additional diagnostic information to know where to work on more. Like someone, for example, that really needs more, can use 5 or 10% more of their confidence. It's easy to see on the induction. I immediately see that. So it's a wonderful. This is an art. It's not just a practice, and it's not a formula that you follow. There is a concept. There is certain steps that you follow, but it's not one size fit all. It's not like a metabolic panel or like a blood count panel. It's not like that. You get results, and then from this range to this range it means this, and then here's your diagnosis. It's not even psychotherapy. I mean, hypnosis doesn't even look at trying to attribute a diagnosis. That's not needed in hypnotherapy. In hypnotherapy, all you need to do is like, I want to make this better. Okay, so let's make this better. Let's hear a little bit about it, not the whole story, because we don't need the whole story. Oftentimes, I take clients in, I ask them questions and I interrupt them. But I tell them ahead of time, I'm going to ask you some question and I'm going to interrupt you and then I'm going to ask you more. And then we gather a lot of information, I write things down, gather a lot of information, and use that information for that particular session or the sessions to follow, and then also monitor their progress. And then when you see people's progress, it's like, how can you do something else? I mean, it's so beautiful, and so more people should do this. Randy?
yeah, I agree. They should call you and do a lot of it.
Yeah.
I say, yeah, I mean, I have a very small private practice, but I'm not really taking money for that. I'm just not my business at this point. It's more of an interest for me. So I'm not doing it I'm not, Karma's the one to call, not me for sure. But yeah, a lot of people, everyone should do it. They should all call you for sure. But seriously though, I mean, it's really even if it's just one or two times, it's so worth the time and money and effort. I was hypnotized once a long time ago, and I remember I went so deep. God, um, it was so enjoyable and relaxing that I thought I would easily pay money to experience this again. It's just so nice. So that was the kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I think that's it's fun to learn about ourselves better and learn what one of the things that I enjoy about it is there's a type of hypnosis where it depends on what's going on, but a person we can have a conversation with their subconscious and we can learn what their subconscious wants and doesn't want and what they're scared and not scared of and what they're holding on to and not holding on to. Why don't I stick with my diet? Well, because I want to lose weight. I do. Well, sometimes in hypnosis, you can find out that the subconscious is very scared of change, is very worried about what happens if you lose a lot of weight, doesn't like being noticed, etc., etc. So that kind of stuff is fascinating.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that people want to lose weight, but then you're right. How are you gonna deal with change? When you're gonna lose 50 pounds, then you have to get a whole new wardrobe of clothes, and well, that implies spending a lot of money, and that implies having the time to go shop to spend all of that money, and that also implies that you might change your circle of friends, right? And that's the same with smoking. When people want to quit smoking, but then when you quit smoking, you don't want to keep being friends with people that smoke all the time, and you for a while you want to stay away from them because like you don't want to be tempted, at least for a while. So one change, it has a domino effect that it can change many more things that subconsciously people don't want together. I have a client, wonderful client, that came to me that she wants to quit smoking and she also wants to work on other things, and I've never, not yet, have had a quit smoking session with her. She's not ready. And I keep telling her, you're not ready. So we've done a lot of other work and coaching and all other things, but hypnosis, when you're ready to quit smoking, then we'll work on quit smoking. When you're ready to lose weight, then we'll work on that. And then there's the other category of clients that come in that they're not quite ready, but then they expect you to make them do so. And of course, I take inventory, I ask them questions, and then if they are this type of client that they expect me to do what they are not willing to do, I don't know about that. Because you can't make someone do what they don't want to do. Subconsciously, I mean, we still do a lot of things and we make subconscious choices. Subconscious choices are different than other choices. So we still, there is in Romanian, there is a saying, well, there was no choice. Well, yeah, there was so many other choices. It might not be so a fruitful choice. It might be a detrimental choice, but it's still a choice. So you can still choose that choice. But yeah, we make choices all day long. It's just on how people look at it. So, Randy, what would you like to add?
That's really all. I think that covers kind of I like the history of it that you gave in terms of how it kind of evolved. And um, there's a lot of stuff online. If people at your website, Carmen, that if people want to read more about what hypnosis is, and there's a lot of self hypnosis stuff and just individual learning if they want to learn about it, or if they want to continue it. So yeah,
What I would like to add on a self-hypnosis, like I just met someone that said that they tried self-hypnosis, and in the guidance they were guided to feel either light or heavy, and then in that particular guidance they were guided to feel very, very heavy. And he said that, well, I wasn't able to achieve that, but I fell asleep. And I said, well, you had a successful self-hypnosis session. It's like, well, yeah, but I wasn't able to feel that heavy. that's not it. We're not linear in hypnosis. So the worst that can happen in a hypnosis session is you get relaxed. That's the worst that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
if you don't want to get relaxed, don't have a hypnosis session. Yeah.
The other thing is, and the last thing I'd say is, this is kind of my public service announcement. But anybody that sees somebody for hypnosis should find out where they were trained at. Better to be certified, but that doesn't, there can be bad certified hypnotists too. So certification is not just the thing, but where did they learn from? How much training did they get? And if they're vague about it, like, well, I learned this school, and I learned here, What did you go there? Did you learn online or whatever? Just a little bit of it. If they get vague about it, then that's a red flag. I would avoid somebody like that, because hypnotism is a very unregulated profession. Anybody can call themselves an hypnotist. You can read a book on it and become a professional hypnotist. And they may be great, but I would, just as a public service announcement, I would be very careful about who I went to, where they trained. I would ask, like Carmen, well, where'd you get trained at? Well, I got trained at the Milton Erickson Institute. Well, that's a big deal. You can look it up online, and it's considered one of the best in the world. So that would be an example of that. So.
Yeah, you're very right about that, because there are a lot of people that have good intention and they want to help, and a lot of people that go with what's known as spiritual healing. But even with that, you have to be cautious about it, because if you go and work on a spiritual level, and then the spiritual healer heals something for you, that it does happen, it might not have a positive outcome for the receiver. Actually, that has happened many times, because the healer, when the spiritual healer has a vision and they interpret that for themselves, they interpret it, of course, to the instinct and through the communication of instinctual knowledge from the client, but they translate it through their own knowledge, to their own patterns, which is not aligned to the client's patterns. So cautious with that. I've had spiritual healings and things fixed through that, and then actually they had not a positive effect in my life right after that. So there were stuff like we cleared something in a spiritual healing, but then we cleared some significant stuff out of my life, which did not impact me positively. So the use of trained hypnotherapy, Ericksonian and other schools of hypnotherapy, learning about how the subconscious works, and I cannot stress enough about the Ericksonian hypnotherapy, because that involves tailoring, involves utilization. It's all for the purpose of healing the client and allowing the subconscious to go when the subconscious is ready to go. And another point that I would like to touch up, that when I had past life regression done 20 years ago, all that it was done the regression, and then we made sense of what was observed and what was the movie that I went through and what was my experience. But when I went through it, I was not guided to go transform anything. And now I wish I would have been, but if that would have happened, maybe I wouldn't be a hypnotherapist today. So what I do today with my clients, when we do regression, I have them transform things in a way in which their subconscious is ready to do it. Because I can give you a few suggestions on how to transform it, and then the subconscious doesn't want to transform it this way, but wants to transform it the other way. That's fine. Any which way the subconscious is ready to transform, that's how it's gonna happen. But that you have to be you have to be trained in that. You have to know what you're doing. So just like you ask, like you said, Randy, ask a few questions and ask more questions, and it's not everything is logical, but a qualified a hypnotherapist will give you an answer that will sit right with you. And if something doesn't sit right with you, then it's not for you. If whatever I say doesn't sit right with you, then I'm not for you. And maybe you're not for me either. So, Randy?
Yeah, that's true. Exactly right. I think that's if you get trust your instincts, and if it's a bad feeling, then that's a big red flag, and somebody to we avoid. There are too many therapists around that are much better than to go through something like that. Yeah, very true.
All right, so this was good for tonight, and maybe next week, well, depending on requests, because I do get requests, private requests. People somehow are they're still shy about it, and they feel, oh, I'm not gonna go into religion. Religion makes a mockery of hypnotherapy, and hypnotherapy used to be part of religion during Egyptians and during Greeks. So especially Romanians, we have Greek roots, and we have shamanism in Romania, and we have shamanism in Europe, and so what's the deal about thinking badly about it? So whatever. But maybe we can talk a little bit about shamanic practices, shamanic journeying, and a little bit of alchemy, as I'm updating my book Feelfulness with this aspect when it comes to generating states, because on the first edition of Feelfulness, I did not add this information in there because I figure I don't need to. But then I figured and I need to, so maybe we can touch up a little bit on that, because that's where hypnosis evolved from shamanism. That's the first group. That's how civil. Okay, no, I'm gonna. I'm not gonna finish that sentence. So,
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, because one of the first, when I was way back when I was in school, graduate school, way back in the dark ages, I did some training and with a psychologist, and she was a shaman, whatever a female shaman is. She was just as much that as anything as she's a PhD psychologist, but she was definitely a shaman. She was definitely a guru healer, and it was an interesting experience to say the least.
but it takes training to become a shaman or a shamanic practitioner or contemporary shaman. It takes training. You don't become a shaman overnight. You don't become a shamanic practitioner after a few shamanic journeying.
It takes training, and it takes an ego about the size of my living room or house, the size of my building. It takes a massive ego. Anyway, lots of training.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much. Make sure you leave your comments below. Ask us your question. Yes, you can send your question or comments in private. That's okay. That's how I've been receiving the questions and the comments, and I will make sure to address those in the next what do we call this? Do we call a podcast, a webcast? A live, what do we call it nowadays? Just you don't know how to call things. There's so many different words for the same thing. So on the next, huh?
Webcast.
Webcast.
I like that.
Okay, on the next webcast. All right. Good night. Be well, and we'll see you next week. I have had several people asking me about regression therapy, going back to their past or to their childhood and solve problems. Now, when it comes to traditional hypnosis, there's several types of traditional hypnosis, out of which I particularly like Ericksonian hypnosis much more because it's very permissive, Ericksonian hypnosis. But today I want to talk about alchemical hypnosis, more specific regression, because the amount of success that I have with a regression alchemical hypnosis is unstoppable. And what the difference between them is that in traditional hypnosis, when regression is approached, it's used by the therapist to go back to some trauma or events that were emotionally charged, that were repressed or forgotten, but events that still have a significant impact on your thoughts, feelings, behavior, or a lack of success. Oftentimes, when we go through highly emotionally charged events, they don't have to be necessarily physical trauma, but they can be highly emotionally charged experience that can leave a significant imprint that keep us from achieving that which we want to achieve. And in typical regression therapy, a therapist will take the client through such highly emotionally charged experiences, which can be past trauma like childhood abuse or neglect. It's very childhood abuse is approached much more than childhood neglect, and childhood neglect is as important to solve as childhood abuse. Or regression is used to resolve issues related to phobia, anxiety, depression. And the goal of traditional regression is to get the client to understand and process that experience, which is possibly buried deep into their subconscious, so they can gain closure and move forward in a positive way. Now, in traditional regression hypnosis, the therapist will take the client into a hypnotic state and go back to a specific memory or a specific period in the client's past, and then the client is encouraged to revisit that time, and to explore their thoughts, their feelings, and behavior as best as they can, as if they were at a time. And then once the session is over, then the client is it's helped. The therapist helps the client to understand these experiences, and it's helped to process these emotions that are still negatively impacting today's behavior. On the other hand, alchemical hypnosis. Alchemical hypnosis, it's much to some degree, there is adds many more elements to it. So once in a hypnotic state and once being regressed to a particular past experience that has left a heavy imprint, through the alchemical hypnosis, I am helping clients find their inner healing. It's a very powerful modality. Now, alchemical hypnosis is based on the practices of ancient alchemists. Like we are familiar with alchemy as converting the lead into gold. So in alchemical hypnosis, we're going to convert the lead of the unconscious into the gold of the wisdom and fulfillment, so you can achieve a happier, fulfilling life. So in alchemical hypnosis, we use to access powerful internal resources and guide the guides within your subconscious mind to affect lasting change. So there's a major difference between traditional regression hypnotherapy and alchemical hypnosis, which uses regression, where in the alchemical hypnosis, I guide you to go to a place where your subconscious is ready to go. Because if the whole experience is made out of different parts, and you might be ready to access just a portion of that experience, or you might think that a bigger event has impacted you more than a smaller event, for example, neglect. And actually, you might be more affected by, let's say, an experience of neglect in childhood than an experience of bad criticism in teenage life. So the subconscious knows what it needs to clear and what it's ready to clear. And what happens in alchemical hypnosis, once we arrive to that highly emotionally charged experience, then I take you to a process of alchemy, a process of transformation, because the subconscious works in patterns, and it works in images and patterns. Subconscious doesn't work with words. There is no linearity in it, and oftentimes during this process, you might go through a bunch of movies that might be related and unrelated, and this is exactly how the subconscious works. And these images have significance, but they are significant to you. So once I sit with you and I ask you a little bit, not too much, I ask you a little bit of your growing up, a little bit of your difficulties, of your struggles, of what do you think it was difficult for you, where were you not treated well, or if there was abuse, we go a little bit over that, not in great detail. There is no need to discuss that at the cognitive level in great detail. I mean, that's what psychotherapy does, that, right? So once I have an idea of where the buoy is, right, then once your subconscious begins to reveal through images, then I guide you into doing something with specific images, which does not make linear sense. When you transform those images during the in this hypnotic state, you are fully aware of what's happening. It's just you're very focused into working, doing the alchemy, doing the transformation, and when you have your subconscious transform those images that are a representative of a highly charged emotional experience from the past, you actually gain closure without needing to have closure with that particular person face to face, or with a particular group of people. It's such a wonderful modality, and it's powerful, and it's interesting how it happens. But subconscious is large, and the subconscious knows what needs to be done, and the subconscious number one job is to keep you safe, and the subconscious will not take you into places where you are not safe. And if your past experience was highly emotionally charged with fear and anxiety, during the hypnotic state, you are not going to re-experience that. you're going to have some sensation and some feelings, maybe some sensations of heaviness, for example, or sensation of warmth or warm temperature or cold temperature, but that's about it, not more than that, because you are highly relaxed and because I guide you. And if you get uncomfortable at any time, or I'm watching your idiomotor responses, so if your idiomotor responses are telling me that it's time to stop, then I'm thinking out, right? And it's a very, very powerful healing modality. Okay, but let's go back to alchemical hypnosis. So the alchemical hypnotherapy is a very dynamic process, and it embraces your emotional and spiritual nature altogether, um, unlike traditional hypnosis therapy. Um, Ericksonian, Ericksonian hypnotherapy has many alchemical aspects to it because it's very permissive. And with Ericksonian hypnosis, you are not told what to do. You are given not options, but kind of options. So then you choose, well, your subconscious will choose what is the best approach for you in a way that's good for you. In alchemical hypnosis, we have several elements like the inner child, and the higher self, spiritual guides. We get to access all of this: the inner child, the higher self, the spiritual guides. Then we do alchemical regression. I just talked about it earlier, where we go and transform and relieve the subconscious of that heavy burden, and all of a sudden you're free of. Yeah, you have more calm and more lightness in your body, more clarity in your mind. That's so good. And then there's alchemical past life regression. We don't just go look into the past life to see what's there and then we talk about it. What might that mean? We go into the past life and we actually go to heal those things. And my kitty cat is a bit vocal. Yeah. And then we have alchemical talent retrieval. This is a wonderful process. Not a lot of people are doing, but it's such a wonderful process. It might take up to an hour and a half to maybe 3 hours. There is no linear way to go about it, and sometimes I've done a talent retrieval, and back then I wasn't quite sure of what talent I retrieved. I kind of knew what I wanted to retrieve. It didn't work that way. So what I retrieved was, of course, being being a healer, and through alchemical hypnosis. So this is a talent that I retrieve that it works very well. I'm very gifted with it, and I bring a lot of healing to a lot of people through this. And further then we have different things that we can do with this alchemical hypnosis, and we can heal past life trauma. So when we go about healing the past life trauma, like I discussed earlier, past life regression with alchemical transformation, through this hypnosis guidance, we allow your subconscious to take you to a past life traumatic memory in the present moment with hypnosis guided, where you are completely relaxed and you are aware of that this is a conversation happening here. And then we go through a very gentle catharsis, where you release and you release this from the level of your subconscious, not just cognitive level. Cognitive level, it's good, but if you release from the level of subconscious, then it's gone, right? And then we can also heal the what's called karmic transgression. Yeah, because there are times, whether in past life or whether in current life, there are times when we have done bad things to other. We have behaved badly and we have hurt other people. And through this process of healing this karmic transgression, we get to heal this chronic problems that might be resulting in a lifetime of issues. And some of this might be due to current illness or current relationship illness or financial difficulties. And when we get to clear this at the subconscious level, miracles begin to occur. And then, of course, you get the cognitive understanding of that. And there is such a wholesome approach to this, because when you get the cognitive understanding of that too, you realize that you hurt other people, or maybe you over criticize other people due to certain experiences that you either had in the past or you are currently experiencing, like illness or relationship or financial issues, that once you become aware of that, you just go, you are taken, then cognitively you are taken into a choice mode, so you can choose how to adjust your behavior so you don't continue to hurt other people. Karmic transgression, right? Then we can also go about clearing past life relationship contracts. Yeah, that's quite a terminology. So a contract can exist between individual where a promise was made, and we have relationship contracts in current life too, where a promise was made, where the promise was broken, but you received that promise and you longed for it so badly, and because the promise wasn't fulfilled, a hole was created within, and that continues to impact you greatly. And so when we go about clearing this relationship contracts, we look at how this contract can be transformed. Because any hole can be filled, so we're going to fill that hole with positivity and with nurturing. And there are so many ways that we can nurture, right? Then we have clearing and changing the preconception contracts. There are contracts that have been made in past life before you were born. This is a large topic of discussion, very interesting and very powerful. And we get to explore the process of regression again, and it's a longer session. Again, we can explore some unique conditions. Your subconscious will know where to go and what to find through my guidance, because I know how to guide you. So we're going to look for unique conditions that were created for this birth, this current life birth, and we can even learn how to change recurring patterns such as suffering or lack of purpose in life, or we can go even further than that and look at other experiences and other patterns that have the look of a contract. Yeah, something that you might have agreed to but never delivered, or something that you were promised in exchange for something that hasn't been delivered to you, but taken this before conception. Very interesting topic, and it's fascinating how the subconscious works at this level. And no, we don't go to measure in how many years back you went, because the subconscious doesn't work like that. And then I talked about the talents. Oh, there's such a wonderful alchemical modality, alchemical hypnosis regression modality, and then we have inner voices, which is something you can think of as parts therapy or gestalt therapy, and because we all have different inner voices that guides us, and sometimes we have a lot of voices that constantly criticize us. They're just inner voices that are continual criticism and a continual a bully and a continual voice that tells you you're not good enough, you're not doing it right, it should be done this way and not this way. Oftentimes we were told what's not right and what we're doing wrong by our parent, by our siblings, by our teachers, by our minister, and then later on at work by our bosses, by our how many bosses we have, then by our lovers and close friends. So there are a lot of voices that go on inside within us. It's not just in your head. It's not just in your head. It's more over here, and we can access this and see which voices are appropriate and which of these voices create a conference call. You get a Zoom call, a meeting together that create all of these obstacles for you. So then we can have these voices. It's more like messages. It's not like voices. No, then we can have this recurring patterns, usually criticism, have a dialogue with one another. In Gestalt therapy, you can have one at a time, but sometimes in this alchemical hypnosis, you can have more than one at a time. It's wondrous how the subconscious works, and then once this is done, we gain a new strength, and then we can get to better understand these roles without losing the not the gift, but all of this. They have a purpose, and in my positive psychology coaching, I have a course already made, transforming the inner critic into the inner coach. So just like that with alchemical hypnosis, when we do inner voices, we transform these critical voices and voices that tell you you're not good enough, low self-esteem and not good enough, things like that, and we transform it into a guide that can nurture you, not constantly criticize you. We have enough criticism in life. And then, of course, there is somatic healing, right? So in the next presentation, I'm going to talk about somatic healing, so stay tuned, all right? So when it comes to somatic healing comes with several extraordinary healing modalities. And again, it's not linear, it's not sometimes it doesn't make sense, and sometimes is doesn't make logic sense, but that's okay because the subconscious is not logic. It's not. And when somatic alchemical hypnosis is done in conjunction with medical treatment, it can be of such of great aid in controlling and eliminating pain, chronic condition, and accelerating the recovery with only a few minutes of practice each day. Few minutes of practice each day. That's something I started doing how many years ago? Many years ago. And there are just thought practices, thought feeling practices. At the beginning they will be thought and then they'll transform into a feeling. That's something I call thought feeling practices. And they are a great help in somatic alchemical hypnosis. And the extraordinary benefit to this is that you don't rely on a therapist to constantly have sessions with a therapist, with a hypnotist, or with a coach, because I am giving you tools that you get to use every single day. Doesn't even take, at the beginning it might take 5 minutes, 7 minutes a day, not even that. Well, it can take more if you want, but after a while, because you use these tools over and over again, you will form thought feeling patterns, and after a while it will be like that. You begin to think about it, and then the subconscious is just gonna go quick, because that's what the subconscious do. It's almost as if you get into a car and you start driving and you don't even press the pedal, and the car begins to drive at the most optimal speed required by the speeding law, right? So these are such wonderful technique, and the flower technique, it's the first technique I advise people to use on a regular basis, several times a day. It's such a powerful healing technique that helps you clear your mind right away, and it helps you release the weight of anxiety, and also brings a relief to your soul, because all of the weight of the anxiety, and also the weight of regrets, they sit very heavy on your soul. Kind of your soul is kind of around here, right? And this, it's more painful than this for most people. Like we think like thoughts and the mind is here, and then this is the heart. That's not necessarily so. Because the mind is all the way here, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, the higher mind. It's many different levels of the mind, just as there is many different levels of the self. Okay, so this is the flower technique, and then we have the golden sun technique. It's a very powerful, it's cleansing and rejuvenating a technique, and it's very easy to learn, and it's extremely effective, extremely effective. And yeah, at the beginning it takes a little bit of time to learn these techniques, but these techniques are so they come with imagery, and whatever imagery whatever image gets created for you, it will be so much easier to remember an image that has so many elements, and it can take you an image is worth 1,000 words. So you don't need to logically remember 1,000 words as opposed to an image, and that's why it's easier to learn, and it's very effective. And but the subconscious's language is image and patterns. So the subconscious doesn't talk in logical words. Mm-mm. And doesn't talk in numbers either, right? And then we have the what I call the alchemical healing of root causes. We can explore the underlying causes of the disease that that are registered, so to speak, in the subconscious mind. Um, there's a lot of theorists stating that all of the physical diseases are stemming from thoughts and stemming from your subconscious mind because of thoughts that you had that are sitting, forming patterns in your subconscious mind. And I believe this is stemming from Jungian therapy, Carl Jung therapy through his shadows. Um, and to a high degree, to a high extent, yes, it is so, but not all of that. And then there's many more explanation to this alchemical root causes of illness that I can guide you through. Um, Not every guidance is good for every person. Then there's Ericksonian, which is permissive and tailoring. We get to tailor depending on your level of understanding and your beliefs and your values. Um, um, just by a few questions, I get to know what your main values are. You might not be aware that these are your main building blocks of values and what are your main beliefs that are sitting at the at the very basis of who you are and how you make decisions and how you appreciate life and how you go about succeeding in life. Um, and and then we get to use this alchemical methodology to explore these underlying causes. Are these underlying causes sitting in thoughts that you have recurring thoughts at the present moment, or are they sitting in other places? So we get to explore that. And sometimes a couple of sessions is enough, depending on the severity of your condition. And there are many conditions that are such a rare condition, especially a lot of neurological conditions are being discovered more and more, and conditions that are very little known about it, that a lot of doctors might be in a little hurry to diagnose it as depression and anxiety or bipolar or many other psychiatric condition that may affect your stigma, your self-worth. A lot of people take the stigma and lower their self-worth because of that. They shouldn't be, well, easier said than done, but that can be avoided. And I'm familiar with a lot of the neurological disorder and a lot of the alchemical past lives contracts and higher consciousness and super consciousness. And I have good number of clients that I've sent back to their doctor and advise them to ask the doctor for specific genetic testing, for specific functional medicine testing. I myself have gone through a lot of functional medicine, through genetic medicine, and I myself have a couple of rare conditions that takes a while to diagnose, as opposed to being thrown into the pool of gastrointestinal conditions like IBS of gastroesophageal reflux. There's more to it. For example, a celiac disease or gluten intolerance. So that's easy to find, and it's an inexpensive test to do, and it's the easiest. It's the easiest to manage, and that brings you a lot of results quick. So I happen to look for that, and I know what to ask you. And it's something very easy to implement, and you give it a try and see if it works, and it's gonna help a lot of things. And if it doesn't work, then you haven't lost anything. You just ate healthier for for a good while, hopefully a good while. Yeah. And then we have hypnotic movement. And hypnotic movement, it doesn't mean you are taken into a hypnotic trance. Um, because after a few a hypnosis session, and after a few of the alchemical hypnosis somatic tools that I give you, you will learn how to enter into a very light trance. It's like a meditative a state, and then you begin to allow your body to move in a way in which it helps your subconscious and your body will tell you how to move. It's not a particular physical therapy or a particular yoga pose or a particular anything particular. Your subconscious will guide your body how to move to release trauma, to release the weight of the world you have on your shoulder, and oftentimes we have physical trauma like auto injuries, and we probably have gone into a vehicle collision that probably didn't take us through a spinal surgery or like that, but it could still have left an imprint. All of that that experience. Well, a lot of people, well, a lot, a lot of people benefit from soul retrieval when something traumatic like that happens, because what the soul does. Okay, that's in addition to the hypnotic movement. I'll come back to the hypnotic moving through a soul retrieval. When we experience physical trauma in this current life, parts of our soul flee in addition to protect us, to in addition to not experience all of the hurt. And then through the process of soul retrieval, you bring back parts of the soul. It's not like you're without a soul, because you're alive and you're talking, you do have a soul, right? So then we bring back parts of your soul. That's again, that's such a beautiful alchemical regression hypnosis. The retrieval, it's more of a retrieval. Okay, but then back to the hypnotic movement. With hypnotic movement, again, we allow your subconscious to let your body move the way it wants. But you have to listen to your body, yeah, and allow your body to move in a very unusual way, well, safe ways, so you can release those traumas, and you can reduce swelling, you can reduce inflammation. A lot of people have arthritis. A lot of people sit on their chair way too long, me included. And this causes a lot of issues with the joints and with the skeletal, musculoskeletal system, because us humans we weren't designed to be sitting for that long, but these are the times. And then we have color healing. And with the color healing involves discovering the color of your pain in the body, and then learning is a way to move the color out of that area through a specific exit point, like acupuncture point, for example. You can understand the exit point through acupuncture points, and that your body can readily identify for you as acupuncture point. And it's especially powerful for headaches, and also very powerful for any chronic pain. Um, just a color, and then you work on that headaches are occurring, and then every time you go about healing using the color healing to aid a headache, the color might change, but it doesn't matter that it changes the color because the subconscious knows what it's doing. So there are specific techniques to use these colors to help you with headache, with chronic pain, with anxiety, and all kinds of difficulties. And then, of course, we have the inner healer. Inner healer, it's a very powerful inner guide. You can call it inner coach. But inner healer is such a beautiful inner guide that can give you not allopathic medical advice, but medical advice as in drink more water to stay hydrated, to nourish your nervous system. Now, that's medical advice. Eat healthier, reduce the amount of carbohydrates, take to protein to water carb. That's medical advice. Okay, we're not going to go too deep into that. And the inner healer can also perform what's called spiritual surgery. A lot of people are familiar with this. And there's many cases in which the inner healer was able to perform the spiritual surgery to remove tumors, to repair the bones, to repair the muscles, to repair the internal organs in your body. There's a lot of miraculous healings and a lot of cancer healing, spontaneous healings. It's well documented. A lot of people don't believe it, and that's okay. If they don't believe it, don't believe it. If you want to give it a try, give me a call. We can definitely give it a try. Now, that's not to say that the inner healer can heal everything that is not right with you, because there's more to it, and that I can advise you when we are a one-on-one. And then what we want to know, and what I want to specify is that it's very important to know that hypnosis, whether it's traditional, whether it's Ericksonian, and whether it's alchemical hypnosis, that hypnosis it's a very powerful tool, and but hypnosis is not a magic solution to anything. There is no magic wand, and but it's a powerful tool to be used for therapeutic purposes. It solves a lot of problems, but it doesn't solve every problem. And the truth of the matter is that not everybody is hypnotizable. And there are little tests that I can guide you to see if you are hypnotizable. But even people that have been told that they're not hypnotizable, I have special techniques that I can work with them. And there is a significant degree of the success that can be achieved with these people. And this usually highly intellectual people that I still have techniques to use with them, and I have techniques where I engage both the conscious and subconscious mind at the same time. So then this works very well for these highly intellectual techniques that have difficulties going into a state of meditation or quieting their mind. But again, hypnosis, especially alchemical hypnosis, Ericksonian hypnosis, traditional hypnosis, it's a very powerful tool that can help you, when used correctly, to help you achieve personal goals. Whatever your personal goal is, you want to get rid of something, you want to enhance something, you want to improve something. It's always a powerful tool, because the subconscious mind works at a very fast rate, and it works from patterns, and it works from images and shapes and colors, which it takes a lot of linear words to describe all that. So the subconscious is quick to work with these patterns, and these techniques they should only be used under the guidance of a qualified practitioner. This is not a guided meditation, and any hypnotist need to be specifically trained in such hypnosis tradition. Whether it's traditional hypnosis, they need to be trained in traditional hypnosis. Whether it's Ericksonian hypnosis, they need to be trained in Ericksonian hypnosis. If there's alchemical hypnosis, they need to be trained in alchemical hypnosis. Because there are a lot of benefits with these techniques. And what's the worst that can happen in a hypnosis session? Well, the worst that can happen is that you get